Thank you, James. Very good morning to all of you. I'm delighted to build on what's already been spoken by Ms. Gonzalez here about the SMEs and the global value chain and how the new worldwide ecosystem is developing. Having been an SME myself for half of my working life, I know the pains that an SME has to go through in building its business, coming up to a level of being recognized not only within its community and in the domestic market, but importantly, trying to seek access to the global markets. There have been profound changes out there which are today giving tremendous tailwinds to the SMEs of today as compared to where my life was 20 years back. Let me set the context. Today, nearly 80% of the global trade moves through one form or the other of global value chain. SMEs are contributing about 40 to 50% in their global value chain. And the third fact that I want to build my case on is that over 2.7 billion people are today connected to internet and are actively using it. And this number is increasing by the day, by the hour, mostly coming out of less developed countries, emerging markets, India, Africa, and many other weaker economies of the world. I think there will be, probably in not too distant future, almost everybody in the world will be connected to the internet in one form or shape. Large part, in particular in the emerging world, the internet experience is coming through a mobile device rather than a traditional fixed device. That's another factor that we need to keep in mind. Now, all this is revolutionizing the way SMEs are used to do trade and are going to do trade in the future. Today, almost every SME anywhere in the globe, and I work in very deep rural parts of sub-Saharan Africa, people are connecting through internet to export their wares across the globe. 92% of commercial sales on eBay today are exported. 92%. 80% of those are in multi-countries. So today, SMEs, which were required earlier to knock on the doors of embassies, go into trade fairs, set up meetings in a very difficult environment, getting visas, travel restrictions, are today sitting in their home and are accessing the world markets. 90% and above are exporting their wares through eBay, for example. And similarly, the other platforms which are competing with eBay, which are allowing similar activities. There's a massive amount of disintermediation happening across the globe today. In our times, the global supply chain constituted large pieces of physical movements. Today, logistics have become much more efficient. Physical movements have been cut down to the delivery part only, and most of the sales, most of the process of trade from one point to other is all happening digitally. Most of you are aware of the new digital platforms that are coming through. If I may give you one or two examples, Airbnb is one such example. Many of you may be using it. What does that mean for the large SME of world trades, which is dependent on travel agency type of business, hotel booking, travel booking? They are under serious disintermediation today. Music industry, the effect it is having on studios today, having on people who are producing cassettes, CDs, is very profound, as we all know. In fact, with the launch of Apple's streaming services last week, I think we are going to see a major shift now, moving decisively towards music being consumed only in one fashion, and that will be through streaming on mobile and other devices. That has profound effects on many industries, but importantly today, the SMEs who are in the music trade are no more going to be at the mercy of many of the people who were part of that old value chain. Suddenly, they are going to be talking to the customers directly by way of small apps, mostly on mobile devices. The third example that comes to my mind straight away is the financial piece. A large part of SMEs' cost structures sit through large banking channels. We just heard about crowdfunding as well. And I'll come to that in a moment because there are certain cross-border issues there which we need to deal with, and maybe Ms. Gonzalez will be able to help us through the deliberations today how to deal with that. But we are now looking at payment mechanism, payment systems, which are providing the same services as large banks at a fraction of a cost. Even today, whether it's Western Union moving monies from one part of the world to another, or going through a mobile app, which are coming through in all shapes and forms, the difference is between charging for a £1,000 remittance from UK to India from a 30, 40 pound cost down to the same level of transfers being done at perhaps less than £1. That's the kind of effect that is having on SME's ability to price itself, to improve its margin, and be relevant to the markets. SMEs today need to focus on one thing, and that was mentioned earlier: quality, quality, and quality. Rest, you will be picked up, you will be taken to the global marketplace by one platform or the other, and the cost of moving your bookings, your orders, and the financial costs are going to be marginal of what you are paying today. So all looks pretty good and robust. What are the problems? I think problems are a few and very important problems. First and foremost today is cybersecurity and privacy. When I talk to many of the people who are moving from physical supply chain to digital supply chain, this is one of the foremost concern on people's mind. Are we going to have our security on the digital world secure? Are we going to ensure that our prices are kept in private silos and not be distributed to our competitors? And of course, the digital signature that has been just spoken about, contracts when they are built in the digital world need to have the sanctity of law and need to be very well understood and importantly simplified for the benefit of SMEs. I think this is one area where we can, through this forum, urge all the stakeholders, in particular the commerce ministries and the governments of various countries, to start focusing in this area, how to ensure that when the trade happens on the digital chain, it is secure, privacy laws are intact, and importantly, the contract verification and its validity is well established. I think the other part, given that most of the SMEs are going to be dependent on mobile devices, the management of spectrum, the investment of networks, this is one area which is where I personally work a lot, are extremely important. If you have to roll out networks, especially in the suburban, rural, deep rural areas, it's important that the countries recognize the importance of a mobile broadband infrastructure for which both spectrum, local laws, local levies and duties, and importantly, investment climate to put such investments in the rural areas is extremely important. That, I would say, is the second most important part that needs to be in place for the world to seamlessly use the digital global value chain. The third important part would be the IPR protection and the crowdfunding, I would say. Now, SMEs have now access to new forms of raising capital. But unfortunately, those who are sitting in sub-Saharan Africa or rural parts of India need to have access to a global crowdfunding activities. There are restrictions today which do not allow easy flow of crowdfunding on a cross-border basis. And I would say last but not the least, when the WTO gets into the final round of services agreement around the globe, one area where less developed countries, principally led by India and some African countries which have very young population, will seek out free movement of people. I think that will become one more issue to be debated and discussed, which will be very important for ensuring a sound and sane global trade environment. I am very optimistic about where the world is moving on the strength of digital value chain. What I suffered as a small, medium enterprise in my first 20 years, my children are clearly not suffering that, not only on account of them being part of now a richer, wealthier family, but one of my sons, for example, is completely independently driving his business, and I see how he's running his business is completely different from how we ran our businesses. It's 100% based on digital platform. It is 100% based on internet connection with its customers. There is really no intermediation, there is no physical value chain at all. That's one form of business. And he is already making a great success of that. I am very confident that the world is going to benefit tremendously through the digital global value chain that is being created by many of the technology companies on the strength of a robust, fair, and transparent internet. Thank you.